Okay, so you're trying to make that software developer resume really pop.
Trying to stand out, right? In that giant stack of applications.
Exactly. It's tough out there. And we're diving into this YouTube video, how to become this guy, Joshua Brown, claims he's got the secrets.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those resume hack videos. Always good to be a bit skeptical, you know?
For sure, nothing's magic.
Correct.
But resumes, they're all about, what, presenting yourself right. There's
Yeah,
got to be better and worse ways to do it.
totally. And it's not just about looking good, it's about showing you get it.
Like, get what it takes to be a developer.
Exactly. And this Joshua Brown guy, he really pushes tailoring your resume.
Not just like swapping out the company name. He means going deep.
Yeah, he's talking about mirroring the job description.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Especially in that skills section.
Yep. Imagine you're hiring, right? And you need someone who's amazing at data visualization, but with Python specifically.
Right, there's a ton of tools out there.
And then you see an application and it says data visualization with Python, boom. Instant signal, they've actually read the description and they have that specific skill.
So it's kind of like a mini checklist for the hiring manager. Makes them take you seriously.
Exactly. It's a really simple but effective way to grab attention.
But how do you do that without sounding like, I don't know, like you just copied and pasted the whole thing?
Right, right. That's where you got to show, don't tell. Like instead of just saying problem solver.
Which, come on, everyone puts that.
Exactly. You could say something like, solved a critical data pipeline bottleneck by implementing a new caching strategy, which then reduced processing time by 40%. See? Much better.
Okay, yeah, that's way more concrete. It's
Yeah.
not just saying you're good at something, it's proving it.
Exactly. It demonstrates you understand the problem and you actually have the skills to solve it.
So it's about weaving those keywords in naturally, not just like keyword stuffing.
Exactly. Demonstrating, not just declaring.
Okay, I like that. He also gives this list of like 8 power words. He says every developer needs on their resume.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Let's see. Collaborator, problem solver, we already covered that one. Innovative, adaptable, detail-oriented, effective communicator, team player, self-motivated. It's like every good quality crammed onto one page.
He's not wrong, though, is he? I mean, those are all incredibly valuable traits, especially in a fast-paced field like software development.
Right. Things change so quickly.
All the time. You're often working on these complex projects, tight deadlines, always new technologies popping up. You need to be able to collaborate, communicate effectively, solve problems on the fly, and adapt to change constantly.
It's funny, though, because aren't those all qualities that apply to almost any job?
Yeah.
Not just software development.
You're absolutely right, they are, but they're particularly crucial in tech, I think.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just be a coding genius anymore. You've got to be able to work effectively with others, communicate your ideas clearly, and just be willing to learn and adapt constantly.
So it's less about being a lone wolf coder, more like a team player who can roll with the punches.
Exactly.
I like that. But how much emphasis should you really put on these softer skills versus your actual technical abilities? I mean, you got to be able to code.
Oh, absolutely. You need those technical skills. That's a given. But I think those soft skills, those can be the tiebreaker, especially when you're up against other candidates with similar technical backgrounds.
So it's like, you've got the tools, but can you actually use them with other people?
Yeah, collaboration is key.
Okay, so we've talked about tailoring, showing those soft skills.
Mhm.
What else does this Joshua Brown guy say?
He's big on keeping it brief.
Brief.
Yeah, like really brief. He actually recommends keeping your resume to 1 page if you can.
On that page.
2 max, he says. Nobody's got time to read a novel.
I mean, that feels kind of extreme, even for me.
He's definitely strict about it.
Because, like, especially in software, you might have all these projects, all this experience you want to talk about.
Right. But he's right about conciseness.
Okay, so how do you choose? If you've got to cram it all in,
Think of it like a highlight reel, you know? Not the whole movie.
just the best parts.
Exactly. You want to grab their attention, make them want to learn more in an interview.
So you're choosing the stuff that's most relevant to that specific job.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be ruthless. Every single bullet point has to be strong. Tell a story.
Okay, so like what's an example of that?
Instead of just saying developed mobile app, which is pretty vague, you could say something like developed a mobile app using React Native that streamlined the onboarding process for new hires, resulting in a 15% increase in user satisfaction.
Okay, yeah, that's way more interesting than just a list of skills.
Right. You want it to be engaging, almost like reading a really good tech blog.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Makes them want to reach out, you know?
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about the personal statement? This is the part I always overthink.
It's tough. Right.
Yeah, and Joshua Brown, he gives this sample one, And honestly, it's a lot. It's like every buzzword you can imagine.
It's easy to go overboard, I think, especially when you're trying to impress.
So how do you strike that balance?
Well, the personal statement, it's your chance to actually show some personality, you know? Let your passion come through a bit.
So less about just listing skills again.
Exactly. What are you actually passionate about in software? What makes you excited?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's got to be genuine.
Because hiring managers, they can tell when it's not.
So should you treat it almost like a mini cover letter, but within your resume?
That's a great way to think about it. Look at the company's website, their mission, their values. What problems are they trying to solve? Can you connect to that?
It's like you're showing you actually care about what they're doing.
Yes. It's so much more effective than just sending out a generic resume.
Okay, that's really good advice. So we've covered tailoring, soft skills, being concise, the personal statement.
Ooh.
What about those technical skills, though? That's got to be huge for developers.
Oh, absolutely. You have to highlight those. But
Yeah.
strategically,
Strategic.
yeah, don't just list every programming language you've ever touched. Focus on what's relevant to the job, to that company.
So like if you're going for a front-end developer role, you'd prioritize JavaScript, HTML, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And frameworks like React, Angular, those are big ones. And don't forget about version control systems like Git.
Right, showing you know how to work it in the real world.
It's essential. You're speaking their language, literally and figuratively.
I like it. Now, Joshua Brown also talks about quantifying your accomplishments, using numbers and data, which I have to admit, sometimes when I see that on a resume, it's like, I don't know, it can be a bit much.
It depends how it's done.
Because if it's just a bunch of technical jargon and then random percentages,
Right. It has to have context.
make it mean something.
Exactly. The numbers are there to back up your story. So instead of just saying improved website performance, again, kind of vague, you could say, reduced page load time by 30% by optimizing images and implementing a content delivery network.
Okay, yeah, that's way more impressive. You're not just saying you did something, you're showing the impact.
Exactly. Show, don't tell. Remember.
Right. So what are some other common mistakes you see developers making? Things they should definitely avoid on their resumes.
One big one I see a lot is neglecting the presentation, the formatting. Think of your resume like it's code you're submitting.
Would you want your code to be messy?
Exactly. Especially if you're trying to show you're a top-notch developer.
So are there like hard and fast rules for formatting?
There are definitely best practices. Readability is key, right? So choose a clean font, use bullet points, make sure there's enough white space so it doesn't look cluttered.
It's like those clean code principles, but applied to your resume.
Exactly. Make it elegant, make it efficient, easy to read.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, Joshua Brown, he's also a big advocate for including hobbies on your resume.
Oh, interesting. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, he says it can make you more memorable, more well-rounded. But is that really necessary? Or is it just taking up space?
It can be tricky because you don't want to waste that space on something generic.
Right, like, I enjoy reading. Who doesn't?
Exactly. It's got to be relevant somehow or show something unique about you.
Okay, so like, if you're part of a coding team, but like, for fun, that would be good.
Perfect. Shows initiative, passion, that you're always learning.
It's different from just, like, watching Netflix.
Huge difference. It shows that developer mindset, even in your free time.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been really helpful. We've covered a lot.
A lot of good stuff about resumes.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask, what about those templates? Joshua Brown mentions them a lot.
The ones on his website.
Yeah, he's selling them. Are they worth it?
You know, I think they can be a useful starting point, especially if you're not a designer.
Right, because formatting can be a pain.
Totally. A template gives you that basic structure, keeps things consistent.
It's kind of like using a code framework, right? You don't start from scratch,
Exactly. It saves you time on the setup.
but you still customize it, right? You don't
Yeah.
just use it blindly.
Exactly. Make it your own.
Okay, good to know. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners? People trying to level up their resumes, land that dream developer job.
Just remember, it's your first impression, that resume. Make it count. Tailor it. Keep it concise. Show off your skills, your passions, and don't be afraid to let your personality come through a bit.
I love that. And on that note, for those who really want to stand out, think about what you can offer beyond the resume. What projects, contributions, experiences really show who you are as a developer. We'll leave you with that thought. Happy coding, everyone.